Kilted
Tilted
balls.
balls.
Woo! Hey
Yeah.
everyone. Hope you like it. We're back with another episode of the Kilted Balls podcast. Ballbuster here.
Yes.
Kilted
Tilted
Dragon
Dragon
Chair.
Chair.
Woo!
Yeah. Yeah.
And hopefully the theme song got you guys all in the mood. I am drinking tea and I might have messed it up. This is the darkest tea's ever been because I was kind of in a rush. So I just like threw like a tea bag and water in the microwave and left it for 3 minutes. And now it's really dark.
Nice. It should be nice and hot for you.
It is like super hot, super hot. And I don't know why I was in the mood for tea. I was just like, you know what? I'm kind of chilled. I think something warm will be nice. And so I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
going to make myself a little tea. And as soon as I took a sip, which might have burned my tongue, I'm not sure. But all I could think about was Ted Lasso being like, nope,
Hmm.
nope. I don't know how you guys drink
Hmm.
that.
Yeah. Great show. Great show.
Oh my gosh, love Ted Lasso. I've made it through 2 seasons.
Hmm.
Listeners, if you haven't had a chance to watch Ted Lasso, it preaches or teaches or demonstrates so many of the things that Kilted Ball stands for. Like,
Hmm.
like when you told me to watch, I was like, yeah, everybody loves it. Everybody says blah blah blah. And then I watched it and I was like, oh my gosh, it's like doing the thing.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all the things we talk about. Ooh, I heard that little cough. How is your cough?
It's sticking around. I don't know what's going on. Like, I don't feel bad, but my cough sucks. It
Coughs
makes me
are
get a
never
headache.
fun.
Hmm.
I would
I
agree.
need
Not
more tea. Most days I do tea. You inspired me. You were having tea a few months back, and ever since then I've been almost every day I have tea. Actually, I
um
did today earlier.
I don't think tea is bad for you. I think it's pretty
Mhm.
good for you. And you like used to do Tivana and stuff. And my oldest
Mhm.
daughter likes tea. So like there's always like a whole bunch of different teas in there. So I'm like, cool. And nowadays I'm drinking it more like growing up, we always had tea. Like I don't know why, if it
Mhm.
was just a thing or because we're Southern, but like we always used just tea bags. We didn't use fancy like Tivana or any of the loose leaf.
Mhm.
And we have all the loose leaf stuff, but I'm cycled back around to where I'm like, why am I not just using a tea bag? Because the tea bag stuff now is so much like a Tivana, right? Like they've
Yes.
before, like all you could get was Earl Grey, chamomile
Mhm.
tea, and now it's like, oh, like this one is like some raspberry fusio, but it was like in a Meyer, like a Meyer tea. So like
That's awesome.
it's become like all fancy, like everything does, right? Like the K cups
Mhm.
changed everything, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a lychee tea today, so it was awesome.
Wow, you don't hear that any very often. How did they make it like
Mhm.
strong enough? Or
It was, I mean, it was mixed with some other stuff, but it was a tea company who Gina and I had met at America's Mart, and they
okay.
made us take a whole bunch of samples. So I've been going through the samples. They're fun.
I kind of like the facial hair you're doing. I keep meaning to shave each morning, but then I get up late, so I don't. So maybe next
Hmm.
episode, listeners, maybe I'll be shaved. But yours is kind of morphed. And the other day, I only saw this part, and I was like, man, he's got like that state trooper '70s porn star child molester
Yeah.
vibe going. But then you
Hmm.
added the soul patch, and so now it's just pure pedophile. So
Yeah. Good. That's the look I'm going for.
that's the vibe. You're
Easy
like,
to,
I'm
it's
pure
easy to
pedophile.
stay single that way.
Nice,
Or for people
nice.
to think I am. No, I had like more, well, like I was talking about down here, and
Hmm.
all this was gray. And when I tried to shave this, like the line right, I didn't shave it because it's no shave November. I trimmed it. But this just didn't look very good, so I just trimmed that, and this will go away soon because usually I get sick of that. I'll keep the mustache for another week or two.
Nice, nice. I saw something recently, and I didn't pay attention because it's not my vibe. But you saying that it was like no shave November, which people say to me all the time, "Oh, are you doing no shave November?" And no, honestly, people, I'm just lazy,
Hmm.
right? Like I woke up one day and I was like, "Yeah, I'm not going to shave." I traditionally shave on Mondays, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm not shaving." And then like this week, I was like, "Yeah, I'm going to shave," and then I was just like too busy, so I didn't shave. So it's really
Hmm.
just pure laziness. Not that it's bad, but it's not because of No Shave November. But what somebody posted the other day was like, this is November. They're like, get used to telling people no. And it was like something like that, like a mental health thing.
That's hilarious. Yeah, that's definitely a thing. People have troubles with that, with
Well, and it was
saying
about
no, and
like
then
saying no to things that steal your energy, like things we've talked about. Like, you and I, so we don't need a November to motivate us.
yeah.
We'll already just walk away from things that are pestering, but you
Hmm.
know, but I thought that's good for some of these people. Like, get yourself focused and do that. Which,
Yep.
speaking of, I had a long talk today with people. Like, I'm like, now is the time. Like, it's a great time to set goals, set expectations for yourself. And then it can be
Hmm.
anything, right? Like, I'm talking to a bunch of people like working out, and I'm like, don't think that it's to be like the best ever or like great here. Like, you could just be like, hey, I want to survive. I just want to survive.
Yeah.
I go, that's
Hmm.
reasonable. I go, it could be like, hey, I want to see if I can improve my body for spring break. I'm
Hmm.
like, there are so many things. And yeah, it could be like, I want to be the best. And the funniest part about this was this little guy afterwards is like, hey, I already know my goals. I'm like, great. And he's like, it's to be the best.
Hmm.
I'm like, well, I can tell you listen to nothing at all that I said. So,
Yeah. At
and if you people are
least
going,
there's that.
oh, what?
At least there's that.
Yeah. Well, and I'm like, like part of that was I was talking to people like you, like, don't come out and it's the first time ever working out. And you're like, oh, yeah, I'm going to be the best. And people
Hmm.
out there, if you're like, oh, that's so rude, you're like a dream crusher. No, 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 I'm not. I'm a dream maker. And the thing is about
Hmm.
dreams, and you've heard us preach it, is you start little and hit towards
Hmm.
those things, and then your dream is there. If you start with this is the dream, you don't understand how hard it is to get that dream, and it's naive, right?
Yeah.
Like, do the little steps that are reasonable that give you success. If the first thing out of your mouth is, you know what, I'm going to go into the Hall of Fame for playing baseball, and you've never touched a baseball before, that means your brain does not understand what it takes to play baseball, right?
Hmm.
And you're just saying words. That's not
Yeah.
setting a goal. That's not having a dream. That's just saying words.
Yeah. Well, that's just came up last week. I was talking about that with
Mm-hmm.
when we went to that BMX track. Like Oliver wanted to be the best. Like that's what he wanted. And we're like, you have to learn to ride your bike standing up first.
Yeah.
Then you can start doing some of the other stuff. Like you're not going to come out here having not ridden your bike enough to where it's even normal to do that and expect to do all these other things. Like these people out here, they've been training for a long time, or they've been riding their like all they do is ride their bikes.
Right.
So
And it
he
doesn't mean
had
it's
to
not
understand that.
possible, but it means
Exactly.
that you've got to do the baby steps first. And it's interesting. I went to a trauma training, I don't know, a year or so ago, and they were talking, and you and I have talked about this, that when you experience trauma, a lot of time you stop in the moment of trauma. And until you've dealt with it, you don't move on. So a kiddo who has like issues, it could be that they had trauma at 10 and they haven't moved on from being 10, right?
Hmm.
And part of my trauma training, they were telling us a story about some kiddos that were, they were trying to deal with them on their trauma, but they were like talking about what they want to be when they grow up. And so they
Hmm.
were like talking to this kiddo and they're like, hey, what do you want to do? Like, what's your dream? He's like, yeah, I'm playing in the NBA. And they're like, oh, what a great idea. You're going to play in the NBA. That's fantastic. That's so cool. So, do you love basketball? Oh, yeah, I love basketball. They're like, like, what team are you on? And they're like, well, I'm not on a team. They're like, oh, do you just like play outside? Do you shoot hoops and stuff? And they're like, no, I don't. I don't have a basketball hoop. I don't have anything. They're like, well, when do you play basketball? And they're like, oh, I've never played basketball.
Hmm.
They're like, you've never played basketball? Nope, nope. Are you going to start playing basketball? Well, maybe someday. They're like 16. They're like, but
Yeah.
I'll be in the NBA. And they're like, see, the kiddo hasn't put the pieces together. And what they were talking about was he had trauma.
Hmm.
And because of the trauma, he had missed the part where you learn that there's steps to get to a goal. And so he just saw the picture of the future and said, I see these guys making millions of dollars playing in the NBA. I want
Hmm.
millions of dollars. I'm going to play in the NBA.
Yeah.
But didn't understand that there is like a billion steps and he hadn't done
Hmm.
any of them. It's like saying it isn't the thing, right?
Yeah.
So
Now dream boards are different, but yeah, it didn't sound like he had a dream board.
no. And the thing is, even with dream boards, I think are pretty good for adults, right? We
Hmm.
talk a lot
Yeah.
about manifesting and doing that. But like I talked to one of my daughters once when she was like eighth grader and ninth grader, and she's like, well,
Hmm.
I'm like gonna do this and I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this. I'm like, oh my gosh, I think that's fantastic. What's the plan?
Hmm.
And they're like, no, 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 it's just gonna happen. And I'm like, okay, so the stuff you're talking about, those things don't just happen.
Hmm.
Like you have to do stuff to prepare yourself to give yourself the opportunity to do the thing.
Hmm.
You can't just say words and be like, oh my gosh, I love that idea, that's what I want to do. Like that's actually not how it's going to work. That doesn't mean you shouldn't have a dream, right? I still
Yeah.
remember all
Hmm.
growing up, my brother Michael was going to be a doctor. He said, I have a dream to be a doctor. I'm going to be a doctor. He said it all the time. He told everybody who would listen, I'm going to be a doctor. And then they'd be like, oh, well, so what makes you think you're going to be a doctor? He goes, well, I'm going to get all A's. And then I'm going to go to a good university and I'm going to get all A's there. And then I'm going to go to med school. And I'm going to, like he
Hmm.
knew parts of the process and things that he was going to do. So when he was 5, you expect that.
Yeah.
When you're 17, 18, 19, that's different. And like with us, with dream boards, like we don't put something on our dream board that's random.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. The only reason I bring up dream boards is because they came up today in conversation. I was talking with our mutual friend,
Yeah.
and he's like, I don't know if Ball, was serious about me coming to visit at Christmas time. And I was like, well, he's absolutely serious. Like we just need to figure it out. And I said, then I told him that I was looking at stuff yesterday, and
Mhm.
he's like, well, it's funny because on my dream board, I have 3 cruises on my dream board, and I've only gone on 2 this year. So this works out perfectly.
Yeah. And so it's funny because dream boards are also to me goal boards, right?
Yes.
Like they mean the same thing. So I think dream boards are a little bit like they're what gives you the focus to your goal. I don't think dream boards are things that are unreasonable. Does that make sense?
Yes. No, I agree.
Right? Like your dream board is, and maybe I'm doing them wrong. And no, people, I don't have a dream board. If you've listened to the podcast, I'm not the guy who journals, not the guy who makes dream boards. They're all up in here in the
Hmm.
brain, right?
I'm that
So,
guy.
right, like I have you to like write things out. I just put them in my brain. But like they're the thing, like I think about, okay, like take the cruises, right? Like I want to do 3 cruises in a year. Why is that the thing? Well, because that is the reward for all of these other things I've done. And I put it on my dream board because it's telling me that's the dream I want to get by doing all of these other things.
Yeah.
Right. And so, like, the dream board is literally your goal board. Like, I tell kiddos, put your goals on paper, hang them places, look
Hmm.
at them, repeat them, know them, put them in the universe.
Hmm.
Right. And the only difference is the dream board is giving you a tangible thing for your goal, normally monetary goals, right?
Yeah. Have you seen like on any of your social media the Jesse Itzler, his giant calendar?
No, I love Jesse
Oh, it's
Itzler, but
awesome. I saw it on my Facebook. It is
like he's
awesome.
selling one or it's his personal one.
He's selling one. It's a big ass calendar, and it's the whole year on like one big sheet, and
Okay.
like each line is a month, so it goes through and just has everything there. So And then I guess it comes with different colored post-it notes for like different things you're trying to do, and put it up there so you can just see everything in a whole. You're not like looking at like one little week at a
one
time.
month
Or
and one
he's
month.
like, I have a race coming up here. I can put my, my race down here, and I can see when that's coming. I'm not trying to flip through my book. I'm looking at it
I
months in
love that
advance.
because I have an issue. It's super funny, and I don't know. There's a few different months where this happens. Normally November, but I've been really conscientious about not doing this. But I'll tell myself I'm going to do this in November. I'm going to do whatever in November. And
Hmm.
I don't see November on my calendar. Right. So I
Yeah.
get through October and I turn the page or turn the Google and it's November. And either A, I don't have time, or all of a sudden it's like, oh shit, I wanted to do that by like the 5th of November.
Hmm.
And like that's like boom, boom, and gone. Right.
Yeah.
And I think February's that way. Like all of a sudden February's done. And I was like, oh my gosh, I missed like 10 deadlines because I was going to do them in February. And February went by without me knowing February went by.
Yeah.
So I think something like that, where I'm seeing it for the whole year, might be
Hmm.
helpful. I'm intrigued. I might get it. Is it like $500? Because I think that's worth it.
It was like $50.
So a deal if you're thinking
I
it's
I
500.
almost ordered it for Christmas gifts last night, and then I got sidetracked. And
Oh my gosh, that is fantastic. I love it. Love the idea. Um,
hmm.
and I think there's other ways you could do that too that are just as sweet. Like now I'm like, ooh, what if I made like a huge one, like out of like plexi, and like
Hmm.
you could move the dates around or you didn't need to. I'm like, oh my gosh, so many things. But as we're talking about this, listeners, that's something that, again, these things on our podcasts and in our lives, they come up generically. Like the dream board came up with you, me talking about it today. And I think things just fall in place. And it's like, oh, yeah, we should start looking at that. And it's also a perfect time as we go into like the January time where people start
Hmm.
doing this, right? Is to start thinking that. And one of the things that you and I started talking about recently was I started making like, I don't know, what would you call it? A strategic plan for like our trading, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
why am I trading? Why am I playing with crypto? What's the goal? Like, is it literally just to play and have fun? Is there a
Hmm.
bigger goal? And I think it's important to reflect on that stuff about why you're doing it and then setting a goal. So I'm like, okay, I'm writing down what I want, which, I was like, this is my goal, and
Hmm.
that made me start looking at, okay, how much am I putting into this? What am I trying to do? And asking those questions, I think, is important. And I think a lot of
Yes.
times, especially when you and I make mistakes and have big L's, is because we always say follow the plan, but it's because we have a plan with no goal,
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I
right?
think that was definitely a big thing, and one of the mistakes that we had made. Like, we were trying to do this stuff, and we didn't necessarily have an end goal that we were focusing on, besides having fun and just doing it. I
Right,
agree.
right. And so, people, this goes to like all facets of your life. Like, take some time here, right? Like, in all of the craziness as we go into the holidays, as we go into January, take some moments and take some facets of what you're doing and think, all right, what's the plan here? Like, what am I doing?
Hmm.
And I think you'll find it'll make things better. One of the things that I always like laugh about is we always play disc golf. We have a great
Hmm.
time playing disc golf. But like I remember one time being like, okay, what's the purpose of me doing this? So something as trivial as disc golf, I'm like, what's the purpose? Am I going out to have fun? Maybe. Am I going out to get a walk in? Am I going out because I want to be a pro disc golfer? Am I going
Hmm.
out like to just have a conversation? Am I trying to commune with nature? Like, I'm like, what is the purpose of what I'm doing? And thinking about that, not necessarily saying, oh, one more than the other, or it has to be this.
Hmm.
Just the process of thinking about it made me appreciate when I'm disc golfing more, right?
That's awesome.
Right. So,
Hmm.
like when I'm going with you, I'm like, okay, the reason I'm out here disc golfing is to be with my buddy and hanging out, chatting and having a good time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like that sets the stage because I know in my mind what the expectation and plan is for me in my heart. And so,
Yeah.
like, then it's not me trying to win at disc golf, or it's not me saying, oh, I wish people would just be quiet so I can listen to the nature, or, oh,
Mm-hmm.
I wish I was running for a workout. Like, there's a reason why I'm doing the thing. So,
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought that was important. So, I think in all aspects of your life, it's good every once in a while to just be like, what's the plan?
Yeah.
Like, I don't think you do that all the time. Maybe you do, but I think
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you sit back and you're like, what's the goal here? What's the goal?
Yeah. What are we trying to do? And it's good
Right.
to think about that stuff.
Oh my gosh. I think it's great to think about that stuff. I think. So, do you have any big goals like coming up that you're like doing?
I don't have any big goals. I mean, the warehouse has been my biggest goal and, the thing I've been focusing on the most recently. And that's getting very, very close. So I would
Is,
say that's been the biggest thing in my mind.
yeah, like getting that all fixed and like all done.
Yep.
And it's super close. I'm like super excited to see it.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yep.
think.
Tristan said he's gonna come out this weekend and help us finish up. So we'll see. It could be pretty awesome.
Is he going to help you finish up, or is he just saying that?
I don't know. Give him the benefit of the doubt.
I would say give him the benefit of the doubt, see where it goes, see what's up with
Yep.
it. I think
Yep.
that's good. Yeah, I think
How
so.
about you?
You
I mean,
know,
you're getting into a busy season, a busy part of your life in the year.
yeah, for people, we're on what is this episode 157 and not counting interviews and fun episodes in between. So we've been doing this, that means for a long time,
Mm-hmm.
right? We're coming on, what are we in? Like our third
3 years.
year? Man,
Mm-hmm.
it's been going for a while. So you guys have all heard and you've seen us go through the cycles, right? When we hit right around December, that's my busiest time of the year and things go crazy. And I'm hoping, and I don't know how to do this, but to be less busy, but I don't think I can,
Yeah.
right? Like I think that's just the symptom of who I am, right?
Yeah.
But I think as I'm getting older, it's just easier to like handle it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it goes, but I'm hoping it does.
Yeah.
So, I think it'll still probably drive me crazy and grumpy, but I think I've started like getting this is weird, but like almost like, this is just who I am kind of a thing, right?
Yeah.
Where I think before it was like, yeah, this is who I am, but is this who I want to be? And I've
Mm-hmm.
realized, and I sometimes will tell people this about themselves or whatever, like sometimes it doesn't matter. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't matter what you want to be. You need to accept who you are, not
Mm-hmm.
who you want to be. And it's similar to like I'll tell people, like if you're really, really unhappy, like you're like, oh, I wish I had a better job, I wish I had a better house, I wish I had whatever.
Mm-hmm.
The problem's kind of you. You
Yeah.
you need to be happy with where you're at and what you're doing.
Which
Not
we've
that
talked about.
yes, and not that doesn't mean you don't strive for more. That's
Mm-hmm.
not what I'm saying. But you understand that that's your thing right now and that's okay. Okay? And you
Yeah.
accept that.
If you're not happy where you're at right now, it's going to be hard to be happy when you make those next steps. If you can even make the next steps,
Right.
being
Well,
unhappy.
and it's a never ending chase, right? Like let's say it's a car. You're like, oh, I really want a new car. That would like make me so happy. And then you get a new car and you're like, well, I really want that nicer car. And so then you keep trying to get the nicer car. And then
Mm-hmm.
you're like, oh, there's always a nicer car. Like I always tell people, there's
Yeah.
always somebody stronger. There's always somebody faster. There's always somebody smarter. There's always a thing. You,
Yes.
you've got to enjoy the journey to
Mm-hmm.
those things. That's got to be the focus. So you make your goal, you make your plans, and then you be happy with the journey to the goal and to the plans, not sad because the journey's taken a long time. right?
Yes,
So, yeah,
absolutely.
words of wisdom from Ball right there. Words of wisdom from
There
Ball.
you go.
Mhm. Right. But seriously, listeners, like look around, be freaking grateful for what you're doing. Be grateful you can set the goals that we're talking about in the plans, right? That
Yeah.
those are dreams that are doable, not dreams that are dumb. But also
Yeah.
know thyself and accept who you are
Hmm.
unapologetically, right? Unapologetically. I was at a meeting yesterday, and all of these people were talking about how their kids thrived in this one thing. And they kept saying, well, my kid's not athletic. My kid's not athletic. I'm like, and a person finally spoke up and said, please don't say that about your kids. Like, don't say it. They are athletic. That's why they're doing the thing they're doing. That's why
Yes.
they're enjoying it. Just because they're not fitting your definition as a parent of them being a
Hmm.
starting quarterback doesn't
Yeah.
mean they're not athletic, right? Like
Hmm.
that was a parent who was putting their things on it, and their kids, like you say your kid's not athletic, that's crushing that poor kid. Because
Yeah, exactly.
weird people, athletes come in all shapes and sizes.
They do.
I tell
You
people
can
that all the
say.
time. Like, oh yeah, I can't do this because I'm little. Oh no, there's a place for you, little guy. Well, I'm just big and
Hmm.
fat. We got places for you, right? There,
Hmm.
are you gonna be a point guard in the NBA? Probably not.
Hmm.
But that doesn't mean there's not another thing that you could do and excel at and be good at. Well, yeah,
Yeah,
but I'm
exactly.
I'm only 5 foot tall and 80 pounds. Oh my gosh, you would make a great horse jockey,
Yeah.
right? Like there's other sports. It doesn't have to be the quarterback. I get
Hmm.
sad about that. And it was sad hearing all those parents say that over and over.
Yeah. It was more than one. Multiple
Multiple,
parents.
multiple parents
Wow.
saying that about their
Wow.
kiddos at this meeting. And I'm just like, and it just was like rubbing me wrong, and it didn't like I couldn't tell what was wrong, right? So you and I have
Yeah.
talked about that. Like you can tell when things are right or wrong without knowing the why. And I'm just like watching it, annoyed. And then a speaker came up and is like, please stop doing that. Like you don't
Hmm.
understand, like your kids' faces fall every time you do that. Like, oh, they're not an athlete. Like an athlete is the pinnacle of what they should be. And it's
Yeah.
like, don't do that. Like, and I'm like, oh, that's what it was. Preach, brother. That's what it was.
Hmm.
So yeah, just it's like when people say, "Oh, well, I'm just not smart. I'm not good at math. I'm not good at this." No, 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 no. You're probably good at everything. You're comparing
Hmm.
yourself to some arbitrary measurement and
Yes.
deciding you're not good at it, which is just
Yes,
foolish.
exactly.
Because if my buddy can get a zoology degree from Michigan State Lyman Briggs,
That
having to
is
listen to
true.
frogs for like 2 months, like it's not
Hmm.
about, oh, I'm not good. It's whether you want that or you don't want that, right?
Yep.
So
Yep. They tried to weed me out. I didn't let them.
hell no, hell no. You showed the man. You're like, you're taking
Hmm.
my money and you're giving me that
Hmm.
degree.
Exactly.
College is a funny place. Funny
It
place.
is.
Mhm.
It was awesome.
Oh my gosh, great 10 years of our life right there.
Hmm.
Oh my gosh, so good. Well, people, it's been great talking to you. I hope what we were chatting about resonated with you. Hope
Hmm.
it hit a nerve, right? And, make some plans, make a dream board, put in some calendar stuff, pick something
Yes.
you want to make your little steps for that we always talk about and say, you know what? These are the little steps I'm going to make to hit that dream or that goal. And
Yes.
be happy and grateful while you're doing it.
Hmm.
Right. So, anyway,
I agree.
thanks for joining us. Another episode of the Kilted Balls podcast. And this is Ballbuster signing off.
Kill the Dragons here. Love you all.